Story 1. I work in marketing and usually I was given a laptop at work. But now I was at home, so I thought I should have a good laptop for work. So I started looking for a laptop. At first, I looked for a long time in different stores, but finally decided to go on Craigslist. I found an ad with a suitable laptop for work. I contacted the seller and we agreed to meet at a certain time at the seller's home to personally examine the laptop before buying. I was foolish enough to think it would be safe, so I went to the meeting place. When I got there, I instantly realized it was a mistake. First of all, the salesman was very strange. He was a man in his 40s to 50s, and he was looking at me with his eyes that seemed to me to feel nothing and were empty. He was looking at my body, but he wasn't doing it quite openly, but I could feel him doing it. I decided to finish where I started and ignore his strange behavior. I went inside to examine the selected laptop. As I was looking at the laptop, he kept watching my movements and went over almost all of my limbs. It was weird and lasted like an infinite amount of time. I ended up finding a severe crumpling on the laptop's casing that had not been mentioned before. I reported this to the salesman, but he said with a smile on his face that he had just forgotten to tell me. Of course, I did not want to buy a faulty laptop and spend my money on it, so I refused to buy it. The smile, which seemed to me very unnatural and contrived, immediately disappeared from the face of the seller. He ordered me to wait here while he allegedly goes to the second floor for another laptop. I was very afraid of his behavior. My heart was pounding, and my inner voice said immediately leave this strange place. I did so, opened the door and ran away from the house. I looked strange in the eyes of those around me, but did not embarrass me. As soon as I got far enough away, the anxiety disappeared. I hadn't been that scared to be anywhere in a long time. After a while, I forgot about the incident and hadn't thought about it for a long time, until I came across a news report which said that a man, disguised as a clothes salesman, had raped a woman. This news was accompanied by a photo, and you will not believe it, in the photo I recognized the man from whom I wanted to buy a laptop at his house. Who knows what he could have done to me if I had not been able to escape in time. Overall, the ad was very cheap compared to the others. I do not know why I was not confused at once. Now, I don't respond to all sorts of strange and very cheap ads, and I only hold meetings in crowded places, because I understand that if I do otherwise, it would be quite dangerous. After all, no one knows what a person has in mind and what can happen. Story 2. I am telling my story, which happened to me about a year ago. I had just moved into a new apartment and decided to generally change my image a bit. I found a new pair of shoes on Craigslist. They were the perfect fit for my closet. I started corresponding with the seller, and after a while we agreed to meet at my house. I live in a small town by the lake, where in the evenings everything is still, and the water mirror reminds me of a moonlit night. On the day of the meeting, I was generally kind of anxious. I don't know why, or if it had anything to do with further events, but I did feel a little anxious. At about 7:30 p.m., there was a knock on my door. When the salesman came to my house felt very stressful, and my anxiety increased. I didn't even notice that he held out my bag of shoes to me before the salesman pulled a knife from his pocket in an unexpected action. I knew right away that he wanted to rob me and might even kill me. Luckily, until about 8th grade, my father taught me various martial arts. He is a master at it. When I realized the danger I could get into, I began to confront him mentally and physically. I tried to take away the knife and sneak the salesman into another room to lock him in. He was very strong, but I was fighting for my life, and I knew I could not lose. I began to succeed and fought, and eventually made the salesman fall to the floor, and he hit his head on the back of a chair. He passed out, and I was able to get out of the house alive. I immediately called the police. They arrived fairly quickly, but before the robber could come to his senses, it detained the salesman. It turned out that he was a drug addict and a criminal. He was in custody and had recently escaped from there. As it turned out, he needed money and decided to be cruel to me and get his hands on my savings. But luckily, it all worked out. After that, I realized that you have to be prepared at all times, and you definitely shouldn't make appointments at your place or at the seller's house. Better to meet somewhere in public places, it will be much safer. After these terrible events, I decided to go to therapy to heal and accept and forget what happened to me. But I am still on guard when I open my front door to someone, even if I know my loved one is there. Story 3. I'll tell you a story that I myself was told a couple of years ago. It was in Australia when it was really hot, and it was over 40 degrees Celsius, which is a lot. Everybody was going crazy with that heat. Even the slippers that people were wearing on the street were melting. And at that time, someone put up an ad on Craigslist that said the ice cream maker was treating everyone to free ice cream as part of a church-free project. Some people couldn't believe it, so they wrote to the owner of the ad to find out more. But one guy decided to go to the place the seller on Craigslist pointed out to him. He did find the ice cream maker there, but it was surrounded by 2 police cars. Unfortunately, it turned